Look, I have been doing this job for 12 cycles now and I have seen some weird stuff. Abandoned colonies, sure. Distress signals that turn out to be nothing. Absolutely. But this was different, and I knew it the moment our scout ship broke through the atmosphere of Kepler-4. The human settlement sat there like a corpse. Silent. Too silent. Sensors are picking up power signatures, chirped Ven, our navigation specialist. Ven was a quilnari, which meant he had 4 eyes and still somehow missed the obvious half the time. But no communication responses. No movement on thermal. Maybe they are all sleeping, offered Kessa from the back. Kessa was new, fresh out of the Galactic Survey Academy, and still had that annoying optimism that reality had not beaten out of her yet. Her species, the Theraxians, were known for 2 things: excellent memory and terrible survival instincts. I clicked my mandibles together, which is the Zythari equivalent of sighing. A whole colony? All sleeping? At mid-cycle? Use that brain they gave you, Kessa. Our pilot, Grax, brought us down smooth. Grax did not talk much, which I appreciated. He was a Korthan, built like a walking tank, with gray skin that looked like stone and about as much personality, but he could fly anything, anywhere, and never complained. Good qualities in my book. The settlement sprawled below us, maybe 200 structures, prefab domes, agricultural pods, a central hub, the usual human setup. Lights were on in some buildings, machines hummed, wind turbines spun lazily. Everything looked normal, except for the bodies. Well, not human bodies. Not yet anyway. But as we descended, I caught glimpses of something. Dark shapes scattered across the perimeter. Big shapes. Grax, do a flyover before we land. Slow. He grunted, which I took as acknowledgement, and adjusted our approach. The ship glided over the colony's eastern edge, and that is when we all saw it properly. What in the 17 hells? Ven's voice cracked. The perimeter was lined with them. Massive creatures, each one easily 3 meters tall, some bigger. They lay in heaps, piles, scattered arrangements like someone had been playing a really disturbing game of lawn decoration. Gray skin, black skin, something with scales, something else with too many limbs. All dead. Very, very dead. Are those predators? Kessa leaned forward, her translator struggling to keep up with her rapid speech pattern. Native fauna. But the survey report said this planet only had small prey animals, nothing apex level, nothing aggressive, nothing that should exist, you mean? I tapped my data pad, pulling up the original planetary assessment. Class M world. Basic ecosystem. Largest indigenous life form, something called a rabuk. About this big. I held my claws apart, maybe half a meter. Herbivore. Harmless. Those are not rabuks, Grax rumbled. Brilliant observation, thank you, Grax. We circled the colony twice. The death count kept rising. 50 bodies. 100. More. They ringed the entire settlement like a grotesque fence. Some showed blast marks. Others had massive trauma wounds. A few looked burned. One appeared to have been cut clean in half. And still, not a single human in sight. Life signs? I asked. Ven checked his console, his upper eyes narrowing while his lower ones stayed wide. Weird species. The Quilnari. Yes. Multiple, inside the central hub. Maybe 15, 20. Hard to get exact readings through the shielding. 20. The colony manifest listed 243 humans. Well, I said, trying to keep my voice steady and failing. I guess we know why they stopped answering hails. Kessa made a small noise in her throat. Commander Thex, what do you think happened here? I looked at the graveyard below us. At the monsters that should not exist. At the too quiet colony with its light still burning and its turbines still spinning. I thought about humans, about the species that had only joined the galactic community 40 cycles ago. The species everyone said was friendly and curious and eager to explore. I think, I said slowly, we are about to find out why you should never ever underestimate a human settlement. Grax set us down in the landing zone. The engines powered down. And in the silence that followed, I swear I could hear my own pulse pounding in my ears. Time to meet the survivors. If that is what they were. The cargo ramp hit the ground with a thunk that seemed way too loud. I hate that moment, you know? That split second between the safety of your ship and stepping out into whatever fresh nightmare is waiting for you. I went first. Commander's privilege. Or commander's curse, depending on how you look at it. The air hit me immediately. Blood. Decay. Something chemical. Like burned plastic mixed with ozone. And underneath it all, something organic and wrong that made my throat sacs tighten. Atmosphere is breathable, Van announced, checking his scanner. Oxygen levels normal, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, all within standard ranges. Temperature is, then, I can feel the temperature. What I need to know is what killed these things. We approached the nearest corpse. And oh, let me tell you, the scanner readings did not do it justice. The creature was massive, easily 4 meters long, built like something evolution designed specifically for murder. 6 legs, each one thick as a tree trunk and ending in claws that could tear through hull plating. Its head was all teeth and anger, jaws frozen open in what must have been its last roar. Rows and rows of serrated fangs, some as long as my forearm. That is not from this planet, Kessa whispered. That is not from any planet in this sector. She was right. The database had nothing. No match, no similar species, nothing even close. Grax knelt beside it, running his massive hand along the thing's hide. Thick, armored, natural plating, maybe 15 centimeters deep. He pointed to a wound in its chest. This killed it, penetrated straight through. I leaned in. The wound was clean, precise. Energy weapon. No burn marks, not energy. He poked at the edges. Ballistic, high velocity, very high. Humans do not have weapons like that, Ven said. Their technology level is classified as moderate, mostly kinetic firearms, some energy weapons for industrial use, but nothing that could punch through armor this thick. I stood up and looked around. More bodies, dozens of them. And now that we were down here on foot, the scale became really truly horrifying. There was something with 8 eyes and mandibles that dripped some kind of acid, still eating through the ground where it lay. There was a serpent thing, coiled in death, covered in spines that glistened with what my scanner cheerfully identified as neurotoxin, lethal to 47 known species, probably lethal to 48 if I was being honest. Commander. Kessa's voice shook. Over here. We found her standing next to something that made the others look cuddly. It stood upright, even in death, locked in rigor mortis. 3 meters tall, bipedal, covered in overlapping scales that looked like black metal. Its arms ended in blade-like appendages instead of hands. Both blades were buried in the ground where it had fallen. And its head was missing. What takes the head off something like this? Kessa asked. Good question. Really good question. Grax examined the neck stump. Cut, single stroke. The blade would need to be incredibly sharp and wielded with enormous force. He paused. Or perhaps an industrial cutting tool. In the middle of combat? I shook my head. No. Someone fought this thing face to face and won. We moved deeper into the graveyard. The numbers kept climbing. I stopped counting at 200. 200 nightmare creatures, each one capable of tearing apart a standard survey team without breaking a sweat, each one dead. Some showed signs of explosives, shrapnel wounds, blast patterns. Others had been burned, cooked inside their own armor by intense heat. A few looked like they had been poisoned, their flesh blackened and rotting in ways that suggested chemical warfare, but most had simply been shot a lot, with weapons that apparently did not exist in the human technological database. This does not make sense, Ven muttered, his 4 eyes darting between his scanner and the carnage. None of this makes sense. Where did these creatures come from? How did a human colony fight them off? Why are there only 20 humans left when their defenses were clearly effective? I clicked my mandibles again, staring at the central hub in the distance. Lights glowed in the windows. Peaceful, calm. Maybe, I said quietly, the question is not how they fought them off. Maybe the question is what kind of humans we left alone out here. Kessa hugged herself, her skin shifting to a pale blue. Fear color for Theraxians. Should we call for backup? I thought about it. I really did. Then I looked at the graveyard again, at the hundreds of apex predators lying dead, and I thought about the 20 humans sitting quietly in their central hub. No, I said, but everyone stay alert, and for the love of the spiral galaxy, do not do anything that might be interpreted as aggressive. Grax pulled out his sidearm, checked the charge. I almost laughed. Grax, if it comes down to us shooting, we are already dead. He holstered it anyway. Good man, that Grax. We started walking toward the hub. Every step felt heavier than the last. Behind us, 200 monsters lay rotting in the sun. Ahead of us, 20 humans were waiting. I had never been less eager to say hello in my entire life. The central hub doors were open. Just open. Like they were expecting guests. Like this was a social call and not a walk through a monster graveyard on a colony that had gone silent for 3 weeks. That is either a very good sign or a very bad sign, Ven muttered. Thank you, Ven. Your tactical analysis is, as always, incredibly helpful. We stopped at the entrance. I could see movement inside, shadows passing in front of lights. I activated my translator and cleared my throat sacs. Hello? This is Commander Thex of the Galactic Survey Corps. We received no response to multiple hails. We are here to render assistance. Silence. Then footsteps. Slow, casual footsteps. Like someone walking to answer their front door after a nap. The human who appeared was tall, for their species. Maybe 1.8 meters. Female, I think, though I always had trouble with human gender markers. She had dark skin, darker hair pulled back, and wore stained work coveralls that might have been blue once but were now various shades of brown and red. Blood. Definitely blood. She looked at us with these incredibly calm eyes like we were the most normal thing she had seen all week. Then she smiled. Humans smile when they are happy. I knew this. I had studied human expressions. But something about this smile made my survival instinct scream. Oh good, she said. You guys made it. We were wondering when someone would show up. She stuck out her hand. I am Rita Okoro, colony administrator. Well, acting administrator now. Welcome to New Cameroon. I stared at her hand. Humans shake hands as a greeting. It is a peaceful gesture supposedly derived from showing you are not holding weapons. I extended my claw and grasped her fingers gently. Her grip was firm. Very firm. I felt calluses, work-hardened skin. This was not an administrator who sat behind a desk. Commander Thex, this is my team. Then, Kessa, Grax. I gestured to each. We need to ask you some questions about what happened here. Sure. Come on in. We just made coffee. She turned and walked back inside like she had not just invited us into a building surrounded by corpses. We followed because, well, what else were we going to do? The interior was clean. Shockingly clean. Organized. A few humans sat around a common area, drinking from cups, talking quietly. They looked up when we entered. No panic. No fear. Just mild curiosity. One of them, a male with pale skin and red hair, waved. Hey, aliens. Cool. He said cool. Kessa made a strangled noise behind me. Rita led us to a table and gestured for us to sit. Coffee? No. Suit yourselves. She poured herself a cup from a thermal container, took a long sip, and sighed with satisfaction. So, you want to know about the Ravager? The what? I asked. The Ravagers. The big ugly things outside. She waved toward the windows. They showed up about 4 weeks ago. Portal opened right at the edge of the settlement. Dimensional rift, we think. Started pouring through like someone opened a gate to hell. Then's translator squawked. A dimensional rift. That is Class A anomaly. You should have evacuated immediately. Called for support. Followed emergency protocols. Rita laughed. Actually laughed. Yeah, well, the first wave killed our communications array, and the second wave killed most of our transport capacity, so evacuation was not really on the table. How many were there? I asked quietly. In total, she thought about it. Maybe 800. 1,000. Hard to count when they keep coming and you keep shooting. 1,000. 1,000. I looked at the 20-ish humans scattered around the hub. And you, all of you, survived. How exactly? A younger male, maybe in his 20s with dark hair and an easy grin, spoke up from across the room. We fought back. I am Tommy Chen, by the way, ordnance specialist. He said it like he was introducing himself at a party. You fought back, I repeated slowly, against 1,000 extra-dimensional predators. Well, yeah. Rita sipped her coffee again. What else were we going to do? Let them eat us? That seemed rude. Grax leaned forward. His voice was low. Careful. Your weapons. Standard human colony armaments are insufficient for creatures of that size and armor density. Oh, standard armaments, sure. A woman with silver-streaked hair joined the conversation. She had a pleasant face and wore a blood-stained apron. I am Dr. Yuki Tanaka. Xenobotany. Normally. But when the Ravagers showed up, we had to get creative. Creative, Kessa echoed faintly. We have a pretty well-stocked machine shop, Tommy added. And Rita here used to work in military R&D before she went civilian. Plus Marcus over there has a doctorate in chemistry. He pointed to a massive human male who waved cheerfully while eating something from a bowl. And Jenny used to be a competitive shooter, Rita continued, gesturing to a small female human who looked like she weighed maybe 50 kilos soaking wet, and Patterson was special forces before retirement, and Luis worked in demolitions for mining operations. You know, normal colony stuff. Normal colony stuff. I felt something in my brain trying to break. You are telling me, I said slowly, carefully, that you held off a dimensional invasion with improvised weapons and a mixed group of scientists, engineers and retirees. Rita looked confused. Well, yeah. I mean, we lost a lot of good people. 223. Her expression darkened for just a moment. Real grief, real pain. Then it passed. But we held the line, closed the portal, cleaned up the stragglers, I repeated her words, testing them. They sounded insane. The last few came through about a week ago. We have been making sure the rift is stable ever since. Well, and burying our dead, and disposing of the Ravagers. That is taking a while. They are heavy. She smiled again. That smile. So, you guys here to help with cleanup? Or is this just a welfare check? Ven was making a high-pitched noise. Kessa had gone completely pale, her skin almost white. Grax just stared, his stone face unreadable. I looked at Rita Okoro, colony administrator and apparently part-time dimensional horror exterminator, and I realized something terrifying. She was not traumatized. None of them were. They were just done. Like this was a problem they had solved. And now they were moving on. I think, I said carefully, we need you to explain exactly what happened here, from the beginning. Rita shrugged. Sure. Want to see the armory first? Might make more sense if you see what we were working with. No. I did not want to see the armory. I wanted to get back on my ship and file a report that said humans are fine, nothing to worry about, and then never think about this place again. But I was the commander, and commanders do not run away, even when they really should. Lead the way, I said. Rita's smile got wider. I was definitely going to regret this. Rita led us through the hub and down a corridor that smelled like metal and grease and something else I could not quite identify. Gunpowder, maybe? Do humans still use gunpowder? I made a mental note to check the database later. Assuming I survived to check the database later. So, it started on day 1 of week 3, Rita began, her voice taking on the tone of someone recounting a mildly interesting anecdote. I was in the greenhouse with Yuki, checking on the tomato hydration levels. Normal morning. Coffee was good. Sun was shining. Then Marcus comes running in yelling about something tearing apart the eastern fence line. Tommy walked beside us, hands in his pockets. I was in the workshop when the alarms went off. Thought it was a drill at first. Then I saw one of those things pick up a prefab storage unit and throw it like a toy. That is when I knew we had a problem. A problem. Then muttered. A problem. He calls a dimensional invasion a problem. Rita continued like she had not heard him. We tried the standard protocols, locked down the hub, sent out distress calls, activated defense turrets. You know, the basic automated systems every colony has, and, I asked, and the Ravagers tore through them like paper, ripped the turrets right off their mounts. The fencing lasted maybe 10 minutes. Our first barricade, the one we set up at the agricultural sector, held for about an hour before they smashed through. She said it so casually, like she was describing weather patterns. We reached a heavy door. Rita pressed her palm to the scanner and it slid open with a hiss. So we fell back to the secondary perimeter and regrouped. That is when Patterson called an emergency meeting. The room beyond was, I do not even have words. Weapons. Everywhere. Lining the walls. Stacked on tables. Organized in racks. But these were not standard colony defense weapons. These were nightmares made metal. Holy spiral. Kessa breathed. Yeah. We got a little carried away, Tommy admitted, gesturing around the room like a proud parent. But in our defense, they kept coming. Rita picked up what looked like a rifle, except no rifle should be that big or have that many modifications. This is a standard hunting rifle, .308 caliber. We had maybe 15 of them in the colony for wildlife management, completely useless against Ravager armor. She set it down and picked up something else, something that looked like the hunting rifle's angry, psychotic cousin. This is what we made from that hunting rifle. Rechambered to .50 caliber, added a magnetic acceleration rail, reinforced the barrel with titanium from the mining equipment, used superconductors from the fusion reactor cooling system for the mag coils. You took parts from your fusion reactor? Ven's voice cracked again. Poor Van. Just the cooling system, Rita said cheerfully. We did not need all of it. And this baby could punch through Ravager's skull plating at 300 meters. Worked great, until the barrel warped from heat stress. Then we had to redesign the cooling system. Tommy held up another weapon. This one looked like someone had combined a shotgun with a grenade launcher and then added some extra evil for seasoning. This is my personal favorite. 12-gauge shells packed with tungsten flechettes and white phosphorus. For close encounters, very close encounters. White phosphorus, I said numbly. That is a chemical weapon. Well yeah, Yuki helped with the chemistry. Tommy grinned. Turns out Ravagers burn really well once you get past the armor. Who knew? Dr. Tanaka appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on her apron. We also developed several neurotoxin compounds derived from local flora. The Rabuks eat a plant that produces a mild paralytic. We concentrated it, weaponized it, and loaded it into aerosol dispersal units. Not effective on all Ravagers, but the smaller ones went down quickly. Poison gas. They made poison gas from local plants. Grax moved to a corner where larger devices sat. These are explosives. Oh yeah, Marcus called from the hallway. He ducked into the room, his massive frame filling the doorway. Those are mine. IEDs mostly. We buried them along the perimeter, rigged them to motion sensors. Also made some airburst variants for the overhead attackers. Some of the Ravagers could fly, you see. Wings like leather, claws like meat hooks. Really annoying. You mind your own colony, Kessa said faintly. Just the approaches, Marcus said reasonably. We knew where we walked. And after the first few waves we knew where they walked. So we adjusted. Added more mines. Bigger mines. Shaped charges. One time we rigged an entire fuel depot to blow. Took out maybe 60 Ravagers when they clustered around it. I felt something in my thorax twitch. You destroyed your own fuel depot. We had 3. Rita shrugged. And it was really effective. The explosion created this beautiful kill zone. Fire everywhere. Ravagers screaming. It bought us 6 hours to reinforce the inner perimeter. Tommy led us to another section. Now this is my masterpiece. He gestured to what looked like a modified mining laser mounted on a swivel base. Industrial cutting laser. Normally used for precision rock cutting. We overcharged it, tripled the power output, added a targeting computer from the survey drones, and mounted it on the hub roof. Could slice a Ravager in half at 200 meters. Overheated after every third shot and sometimes caught fire. But honestly worth it. Sometimes caught fire, Van repeated. He had stopped translating properly, just echoing words now. Rita nodded. Yeah, that was a problem. But Jenny usually had a fire extinguisher handy. And if the laser was on fire, we were probably already having a bad day anyway. So what is one more fire? The logic. The absolute insane logic. How long did the siege last? I asked. 3 weeks. Give or take. Hard to keep track when you are on rotating watch shifts and sleeping in 4-hour increments. Rita set down the weapon she was holding. The first week was the worst. We lost 140 people. They just kept coming through the portal wave after wave. We kept falling back, tightening the perimeter, losing ground. Her expression darkened again. Real emotion breaking through. We lost the school on day 4. The residential quarter on day 6. Every time we gave up ground, we lost people, friends, families. Tommy's grin faded. My sister died on day 8. Ravager got through a weak point in the barricade. She held it long enough for us to seal the breach, but she did not make it. Silence fell over the armory. Heavy silence. The kind that weighs on you. Then Rita straightened up. But on day 9, Patterson came up with a counterattack plan. We stopped retreating. Started laying traps. Building better weapons. Learning their patterns. They were strong, fast, armored. But they were not smart. They just charged. Over and over. Same approach every time. So we turned it against them, Marcus added. Funneled them into kill zones. Used the terrain. Created crossfires. Patterson called it asymmetric warfare. I called it making the monsters regret their life choices. By week 2 we were holding steady. Rita continued. By week 3 we were pushing back. And then Luis figured out how to collapse the portal. How? Grax asked. His first question in a while. A thin man with graying hair poked his head into the armory. You talking about me? I am Luis Vargas. Demolitions and applied physics. The portal was a dimensional rift held open by some kind of energy field. I theorized that a sufficiently large explosive force at the exact focal point might destabilize it. You theorized, I said slowly. Well, I was 70% sure, maybe 60, but we were running out of options, so we rigged every explosive we had left, added in the reactor overload as a kicker, and dropped the whole package right into the portal's center mass. You overloaded your reactor, Kessa said. She had moved beyond shock into some kind of transcendent horror. Just a little bit. Controlled overload. Mostly controlled. And it worked. Portal collapsed. Cut off the Ravager reinforcements. Then we just had to clean up the straggers. Louise smiled. Only took us another week to hunt down the last ones. Hunt down. They hunted the dimensional monster. I looked around the armory again. At the improvised weapons of mass destruction. At the humans standing there so casually drinking their coffee, discussing war crimes like they were sharing recipes, and I realized something that made my blood run cold. These were not soldiers. These were farmers, scientists, engineers, regular colonists, and in 3 weeks they had turned themselves into something that could fight off a dimensional invasion. What would actual human soldiers be like? What would happen if humanity ever decided the galaxy was a threat? Commander Thex. Rita was looking at me with concern. You okay? You look a little pale. Well, paler than usual. Is pale the right word for your species? I am fine, I lied. Just processing. Want to see where the portal was? Tommy offered. We have been studying it. Really fascinating dimensional physics. Totally breaking like 17 laws of thermodynamics. No, I said quickly. No, I think we have seen enough. Rita nodded. Fair. It is a lot to take in. You guys want to stay for dinner? We are making stew, plenty to go around. Dinner. She was offering us dinner, in a colony that had just survived an apocalypse. That is very kind, I managed. But we should begin our official report. Sure. Let me know if you need anything. We will be around. Rita started walking back toward the common area, the other humans following. We stood in the armory, surrounded by the evidence of human creativity applied to violence. Kessa spoke first. Her voice tiny. We need to tell the council about this. And tell them what? I clicked my mandibles. That humans can weaponize anything. That they casually commit atrocities when threatened. That a group of farmers just held off an invasion that would have wiped out a military installation. Grax rumbled. We tell them the truth. Humans are dangerous. I thought about Rita's smile. About Tommy's casual description of burning enemies alive. About Louise blowing up a dimensional portal with a jury-rigged reactor bomb. No, I said slowly. Humans are not dangerous. They all looked at me. Humans are absolutely terrifying. Against my better judgment, which was screaming at me to leave, I decided we needed to document everything. The council would never believe this otherwise. Hells, I barely believed it, and I was standing in the middle of Rita, I called out. She turned back, coffee cup still in hand. Would you mind giving us a full tour of your defensive installations, for the official report? Her face lit up. Oh, absolutely. Tommy, grab the map. Let us show them the fun stuff. The fun stuff. She called it the fun stuff. Tommy returned with a tactical display, spreading it across a table. The colony layout glowed in blue lines surrounded by red marks. So many red marks. Okay, so this was the original perimeter. He began tracing the outer ring. Standard prefab fencing. Lasted about as long as ice cream in a furnace. The Ravagers went through it in under 10 minutes. This second line here, Rita pointed, was our first real defensive position. We reinforced it with steel plating from the storage units, welded them into barriers, added firing positions every 20 meters, claymore mines on the approaches. Claymore mines, Van whispered. Do you people just have claymore mines lying around? We made them, Marcus said proudly. Ball bearings, plastic explosive, simple detonator, basic design really. Patterson showed us the specs from his military days. We manufactured about 200 in the first 72 hours. 200 improvised anti-personnel mines. In 3 days, using colonial equipment. Can we see one of the defensive positions? I asked. Documenting. I was documenting. Not feeding my own morbid curiosity. Definitely not that. Sure thing. Rita drained her coffee and headed for the door. The eastern position is closest. Fair warning though, we have not cleaned it up yet. Still has some biological matter stuck to the walls. Biological matter. Wonderful. We followed her outside, back into the smell of death and decay. She led us along a path marked with reflective tape, stepping over debris and dark stains that I really did not want to examine closely. The defensive position was a nightmare of practical engineering. Reinforced steel walls, 3 meters high, with firing slits cut at regular intervals. Behind it, a trench deep enough to provide cover. Sandbags, ammunition crates, spent shell casings scattered like metallic confetti, and blood. So much blood, human and otherwise. This position held for 11 days straight, Rita said, running her hand along the wall. The metal was scarred, gouged with claw marks. We rotated shifts, 4 hours on, 4 hours off. Jenny was primary shooter here. That woman could hit a Ravager's eye socket at 300 meters in the dark during a rainstorm. Absolutely incredible. I examined the firing slit. The metal around it was warped, melted in places. What caused this damage? Oh, some of the Ravagers could spit acid. Nasty stuff. Ate right through steel if you did not neutralize it quickly. We started keeping baking soda solution in spray bottles at every position. She pointed to an empty bottle still sitting on a shelf. Worked surprisingly well. Grax was looking at something mounted on a post. This is a sensor array. Motion detectors, Tommy confirmed. Stripped them out of the security system and repurposed them. Gave us about 30 seconds warning before each wave hit. Enough time to get into position and ready the surprises. Surprises? Kessa asked weakly. Rita grinned. That grin again. Tommy, show them Trap Alley. We walked another 100 meters to what looked like a narrow passage between 2 storage buildings. The ground was churned up, blackened and littered with fragments of shell and bone. We funneled them here, Tommy explained, practically bouncing with enthusiasm. Set up barricades on either side so they had to come through this corridor. Then we lined both sides with directional mines, mounted flamers at the far end, and positioned shooters on the roofs. He pointed up. I saw the positions, reinforced, protected, perfect angles of fire. When a group entered the kill zone, we would detonate the mines, activate the flamers and open fire from above. Ravagers are tough, but even they cannot survive simultaneous attacks from 5 directions. He kicked at a piece of charred bone. We processed maybe 300 through here. Most effective defensive position we built. Processed. He said processed like this was a factory operation. Louis joined us appearing from somewhere. Want to see the chemical warfare station? We set that up near the water treatment facility. Used the pumps to create aerosol dispersal. Really effective area denial. You weaponized your water treatment plant, I stated. Not a question anymore. Just acceptance. Well, we isolated one section of it. Still needed clean water for drinking. Louis said it like that made it reasonable. The neurotoxin aerosol worked wonders on the smaller Ravagers. The big ones needed more direct application, so we developed concentrated darts. Jenny could nail them from 100 meters out. Yuki appeared, somehow even more cheerful than before. Oh, are we discussing the toxins? I brought samples if you want to see. Also, we documented the synthesis process. Might be useful for other colonies if they face similar situations. She held out a container, a sealed container, thank the spiral, filled with vials of various colored liquids. This one is the paralytic. This one is a cellular necrotizer. This one causes rapid dehydration. And this fun little mixture here induces catastrophic organ failure within 90 seconds of exposure. She pointed to each vial lovingly. The necrotizer was particularly effective against the armored variants. It seeps through any organic gaps in the plating. Kessa made a gagging sound and turned away. I stared at the vials, at the scientist holding them like they were fine wines, at the colony that had turned into a fortress of horrors. How? I managed. How did you maintain morale through all of this? 3 weeks of constant siege, watching friends die, creating weapons of mass destruction. How did you not break? Rita's expression softened. We did break, several times. People cried, people screamed. Patterson had a complete breakdown on day 12. Just sat down and sobbed for an hour. Then he got up, grabbed his rifle and went back on the line. Tommy nodded. We broke, but we did not stay broken, because the alternative was dying, and most of us decided dying was not really on our schedule. Plus, Marcus added, we got angry, really angry. These things came to our home, killed our people, destroyed our colony. So we made them regret it. Louis gestured broadly at the devastation. Every trap we built, every weapon we designed, every defensive position we held, it was all for the 223 we lost. We owed them a debt, paid it in Ravager blood. The casual way they discussed revenge. The matter-of-fact tone when describing industrial-scale killing. The complete absence of hesitation or regret. Grax was examining a wall where someone had scratched tallies. Hundreds of tallies. Are these kill counts? Yeah, Rita said quietly. We kept track. Not for glory or anything like that. Just to remember, every mark is a ravager that will not kill anyone else. Every mark is a small piece of justice for the people we lost. Van had stopped functioning. He just stood there, all four eyes wide, translator occasionally spitting out fragments of sentences that made no sense. I looked at my team. Kessa was pale and shaking. Van was in shock. Grax looked like he was reevaluating every assumption he had ever made about soft species. And I felt something I had not felt since my first year in Survey Corps. True, bone-deep fear. Not fear of the Ravagers. Fear of the humans who had beaten them. I said carefully, we have seen enough. We should return to the ship. Begin compiling our report. Rita nodded. Sure, let me know if you need anything else. We will be here, not like we have anywhere else to go. She laughed. Actually laughed. We walked back to the ship in silence. The graveyard of monsters around us felt less threatening now, because we knew what had killed them, and that was so much worse. We sat in the ship for an hour before anyone spoke, just sat there surrounded by our instruments and data, trying to process what we had witnessed. Finally, Ven broke the silence. What do we tell the council? Good question. Excellent question. Terrifying question. I pulled up the report template on my data pad. Standard Survey Corps format. Section 1, Colony Status. Section 2, Casualty Assessment. Section 3, Threat Evaluation. Section 4, Recommendations. Where exactly do you put humans turned a dimensional invasion into a shooting gallery in the standard format? We tell them the truth, I said, my claws hovering over the input field. Human colony New Cameroon was attacked by approximately 1,000 extra-dimensional hostile entities. Colony suffered 223 casualties, roughly 92% fatality rate. Remaining survivors successfully repelled invasion force, eliminated all hostiles in closed dimensional rift. That sounds too simple, Kessa said. She had regained some color but still looked shaken. It does not capture what they did. No, I agreed, it does not. But if I write what they actually did, the council will think I am having a psychological episode. Grax rumbled from the pilot seat. Recommend reclassification of human threat assessment. I clicked my mandibles. From what to what? They are already classified as peaceful, cooperative, technologically moderate. What do we change it to? Peaceful until threatened. Then capable of weaponizing literally anything including their own infrastructure. Yes, Grax said simply. He had a point. I typed for a while, deleting and rewriting, trying to find words that conveyed the reality without sounding insane, trying to explain that the friendly, curious species that joined the galactic community 4 decades ago could, when pushed, turn into something out of a nightmare. You know what the worst part is, Kessa said quietly. They were not soldiers, they were farmers and scientists and retirees, regular people, and they did all of that. That is the worst part, Van agreed. Military capability we could understand, prepare for. But this was improvisation. Adaptation. They took mining equipment and gardening supplies and turned them into weapons of war in days. I thought about Rita's smile, about Tommy's enthusiasm, about Dr. Tanaka's toxin collection, about Marcus casually discussing explosive yields, about Luis blowing up a dimensional portal with jury-rigged bombs. They are problem solvers, I said slowly, the realization forming as I spoke. That is what makes them dangerous. Give them a problem, any problem, and they will solve it. Does not matter if the solution is ethical, does not matter if it is horrifying, they will find a way. And they laugh about it, Kessa added. Did you notice? They were joking, making coffee, offering us dinner, like the graveyard outside was just a minor inconvenience they had dealt with. I had noticed. Oh, I had noticed. I finished the report, added my recommendations, then I stared at the final section for a long moment before typing. Recommendation. Human colonies should be granted full autonomy in defensive matters. Do not interfere with human defensive preparations. Do not question human weapons development. Do not under any circumstances threaten a human settlement unless you are prepared for the consequences. Then read over my shoulder. The council will never approve that. Then the council can come here and look at the graveyard themselves. I sent the report. Done. Let them deal with it. We sat in silence again. Outside I could see Rita and Tommy walking the perimeter, checking something, laughing about something. Just another day, Commander, Grax said. Question. Go ahead. We call them the monsters, the Ravagers. But they just attacked. Did what their nature programmed them to do. He paused. The humans chose to become what they became. Chose to build those weapons. Chose to use them. So which species is really the monster? I did not have an answer for that. Still do not. If I am being honest, we lifted off an hour later. Rita waved from the ground. Friendly, cheerful, covered in blood and surrounded by corpses, but cheerful. As we broke atmosphere, Kessa asked the question I knew was coming. Do we tell the other species about this? Warn them. I thought about it. Thought about the hundreds of human colonies scattered across dozens of worlds. Thought about what they might be capable of if threatened. Thought about what they might become if the galaxy ever made an enemy of humanity. We tell them exactly what we saw, I said. And we hope they are smart enough to be afraid. Then looked at me with all four eyes. And if they are not? I pulled up the images we had taken. The graveyard, the weapons, the defensive positions, the casual destruction wrought by ordinary people protecting their home. Then they will learn, I said quietly. The hard way. We jumped to hyperspace, left New Cameroon behind, left the humans to their coffee and their cleanup and their dimensional rift studies. But I knew the truth now, had seen it with my own eye. Humans joined the galactic community as explorers and scientists. Peaceful, friendly, eager to learn. But they brought something else with them. Something they kept hidden until it was needed. A capacity for violence. That was not just physical but creative, imaginative, terrifyingly efficient. We had welcomed them as equals, as partners. We should have recognized them for what they really were. Survivors, adapters, problem solvers. And problems, I had learned, came in many forms. The Ravagers were one kind of problem. Big, scary, obvious. But humanity? Humanity was a different kind of problem entirely. The kind that smiled at you while holding a cup of coffee in one hand and a weapon of mass destruction in the other. The kind that turned gardening equipment into chemical weapons and called it Tuesday. The kind of problem that made you reevaluate everything you thought you knew about the universe. I filed my report with one final note, flagged for council attention. Humanity is not our enemy, but we should be very, very careful never to give them a reason to become one. Because I had seen what 20 humans could do when threatened, and I really did not want to see what billions of them could do. The ship hummed around us, the stars streaked past, and somewhere behind us Rita Okoro was probably making more coffee, surrounded by the graveyard she had built. Still smiling, always smiling. That smile would haunt my dreams for years.